Welcome to day 4 of our daily Bible study online. We're going to look at chapter 4 of Proverbs today, and we hope that you are taking time as we go through this to spend some time on your own reading these chapters or rereading these chapters and pondering them in your hearts about what they might mean to you more specifically after these questions. And so today we have chapter 4. Listen, children, to a father's instruction, and be attentive that you may gain insight. For I give you good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. When I was a son with my father tender and my mother's favorite, he taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast my words. Keep my commandments and live. Get wisdom, get insight. Do not forget nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she will keep you. Love her, and she will guard you. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. And whatever else you get insight. Prize her highly, and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. She will place on your head a fair garland. She will bestow on you a beautiful crown. Hear, my child, and accept my words. The years of your life may be many. If I have taught you the way of wisdom, I have led you in the paths of uprightness. When you walk, your step will not be hampered. And if you run, you will not stumble. Keep hold of instruction. Do not let go. Guard her, for she is your life. Do not enter the path of the wicked, and do not walk in the way of evildoers. Avoid it, and do not go on it. Turn away from it and pass on, for they cannot sleep unless they have done wrong. They are robbed of sleep unless they have made someone stumble. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. But the path of the righteous is like the light of dawn, which shines brighter and brighter until full day. The way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know what they stumble over. My child, be attentive to my words. Incline your ear to my sayings. Do not let them escape from your sight. Keep them within your heart, for they are life to those who find them and healing to all flesh. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life. Put away from you crooked speech, and put devious talk far from you. Let your eyes look directly forwards, and your gaze be straight before you. Keep straight the path of your feet, and all your ways will be sure. Do not swerve to the right or to the left. Turn your foot away from evil. I think it's important now. We're starting to see a little bit more about wisdom, and I think it's important to bring up that wisdom in this book, in our background, is a woman. It's woman wisdom, and so that's why when we get to places like verse 6 in today's chapter, do not forsake her, and she will keep you. Love her, and she will guard you. The she in this is not this person's wife or this person's mother, but it's Lady Wisdom. Wisdom is often referred to as she. And so as we start this, there is a lot going on in this chapter, so we're just going to touch briefly on some of these. These first few verses in chapter 4 give us insight into the instruction of a pious Israelite family, the teaching of the faith at home, if you will. And then we get into later in verses 10 through about 18, verses 19, we have this compare and contrast of the way of wisdom being the way of light, the way to abundant life, and the way of evil, the way of violence and anger and hatred, the way of darkness. Specifically, we go through verse 13 from verse 10, and this idea that wisdom is light. So we hear at verse 18 then, but the path of righteousness is like the light of dawn, which shines brighter and brighter until full day. Or we could translate that shines brighter and brighter till noon, because the sun is at its highest peak at the noon hour, and so we have light. So that's the way of wisdom. It's like walking in the day at noon. But then in verses 14 through about 17, this idea of wickedness, that it's darkness, and such darkness that we can't see a thing. So when we stumble, we have no idea what we stumble over. And that is the way of wickedness. But there's something interesting here. So we say that if we are guilty of something, if we have done something wrong, it gnaws at us and we can't sleep, right? But here in Proverbs it says, for they cannot sleep unless they have done something wrong. So think about that for a moment. They cannot sleep unless they have done something wrong. And then we have, finally, this idea of getting ourselves ready to receive wisdom, that it's not enough to instruct others, to instruct our children on the outward way of living, but we also have to be clean and we have to be ready. Our hearts have to be focused, right? Our heart is at our center, so our heart has to be focused and ready to receive this wisdom, to receive God. And so we have to put away all of this evilness, this crooked way of life, and be ready to receive that wisdom. So our inward self has to be ready if our outward self is also going to be on the right path. And so we have two questions again today. The first one is, can we pinpoint those times in our lives when we find ourselves looking to the right or to the left? Can we find those times, and what is it that causes us to swerve from the path of wisdom? And then the second one, how can we ready our central organ, our heart? How can we ready it? How can we do that housekeeping to receive this wisdom that we hear in Proverbs? More specifically, looking ahead to November, the month when we really start to give thanks for everything that we have been blessed with. How can we prepare our hearts to receive this teaching of God so that we can find those blessings next month in November in our lives? So how can we now get ready to receive God? How are we getting ready to bring this wisdom in? Are we ready to receive these words today? And so ponder those, my friends. Read this scripture, and we'll see you with Pastor Catherine tomorrow as we look at chapter 5.